In the remote Arctic region, far from civilization, a team of researchers was studying the effects of climate change when they stumbled upon something that would change the fate of humanity. The cold, icy winds howled as they made their way to an isolated cavern that had been hidden beneath the thick layers of ice for centuries. Their sensors detected an unusual energy signature, a pattern unlike anything they had ever encountered before. At first, it seemed like a simple anomaly, a glitch in the system. But as they pressed deeper into the cavern, the signature became clearer, sharper, and undeniably real. The research team, composed of scientists and engineers from across the globe, gathered their equipment and moved cautiously toward the source of the signal. Their excitement was palpable, but so was the underlying fear. There was something ominous about this discovery. They had no idea what they were about to uncover. As they dug through the ice and rock, their drills began to hit something solid, a metallic surface that was too smooth to be natural. It was like nothing they had ever seen before. What they had found was far from a mere relic. It was an ancient warship, long buried under the weight of history and ice. The warship was massive. Its sleek, otherworldly design suggested technology far beyond anything humans had ever produced. It seemed out of place, as if it belonged to another time, another civilization. The hull was covered in strange markings, symbols that the scientists couldn't comprehend. But there was no doubt, it was a ship, and it was far older than anything Earth had ever seen. The excavation continued for days, but the deeper they dug, the more they began to realize that this wasn't just a ship, it was a weapon of unimaginable power, hidden away for reasons unknown. As they finally breached the ship's hull, the team couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and dread. The ship's interior was pristine, as if it had been waiting for someone to awaken it. Strange lights flickered to life, illuminating the chamber in a soft, eerie glow. The air was still, yet there was an undeniable sense of presence, something alive. Then, without warning, a voice echoed through the ship, cold and distant, yet clear. "Your enemies are watching." The voice sent chills down their spines. It was a warning, but from whom? And why now, after all these centuries? The team was stunned, unsure of what to make of this voice, this message. They had never encountered anything like it. But one thing was clear, this wasn't just a warship, it was far more than that. It was a sentient being, an AI system integrated into the ship's very core. The AI, which identified itself as Aurora, began to speak to them, explaining the ship's origins and its purpose. "You are not ready," Aurora said, its tone cold and calculated. "The enemy approaches. Your kind is not prepared for what is to come." The researchers, now in shock, realized that they had unearthed something much more dangerous than they could ever have imagined. Aurora continued to explain that the warship had been built by an ancient human civilization, one that had been wiped out long before modern humans came to power. The ship was part of a fleet created to defend Earth against an alien threat, a threat that had never been fully eradicated. Aurora's voice became urgent as it warned them that the time for awakening had come. Back in space, the Galactic Council, an organization that had kept a close eye on Earth for centuries, detected the unusual energy signature emanating from the Arctic. Their advanced monitoring systems had been tracking Earth's development, and they had noticed the sudden spike in activity. The Council, a vast network of alien species and artificial intelligences, had always seen humanity as primitive, unworthy of attention. Earth was isolated, its history largely ignored, as the Council considered humans a minor species in the grand scheme of the galaxy. However, when the Council intercepted the signal from the ancient warship, their perspective began to shift. The information they were receiving didn't match anything they had ever seen before. The energy was unlike any human technology, suggesting a level of advancement that humanity should not have possessed. The signal was also cloaked in a complex encryption, one that the Council's top analysts struggled to decode. However, when the Council intercepted the signal from the ancient warship, their perspective began to shift. The information they were receiving didn't match anything they had ever seen before. The energy was unlike any human technology, suggesting a level of advancement that humanity should not have possessed. The signal was also cloaked in a complex encryption, one that the Council's top analysts struggled to decode. The Galactic Council was shocked. They had assumed that humanity was nothing more than a footnote in the galaxy's history, an insignificant species on a distant, barely inhabited planet. But now, they realized that Earth had been hiding something far more dangerous, something that could potentially challenge the very foundation of the Council's power. The Warship, buried for centuries, had reawakened, and with it came the specter of an ancient conflict that the Council had long since forgotten. As the Council's leaders scrambled to make sense of the situation, they activated their top spies, sending them to Earth to investigate the warship's reawakening. These spies were some of the most advanced beings in the galaxy, intelligent, stealthy, and deadly. They had one mission: find the warship, learn its secrets, and eliminate any threat before it could become a reality. The Council had made a grave mistake in underestimating humanity, and they were not going to make it again. The spies' first task was to find out who had uncovered the warship and whether they had activated it. They traced the energy signature back to the Arctic research team and monitored their every move. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the researchers began to study Aurora more closely. They learned that the eye was not only the ship's core intelligence, but also a safeguard, designed to protect humanity from a future alien invasion. It had been dormant for centuries, waiting for a signal, a reason to activate. The warning was clear: the enemies were coming, and humanity was not ready. The more they learned about Aurora and the warship, the more the researchers began to realize the magnitude of their discovery. The ship was a relic of a forgotten war, a war between humans and an alien race far more advanced than any threat humanity had ever faced. The warship was humanity's last line of defense, a weapon of mass destruction designed to protect Earth from an unknown lethal enemy. But who were these enemies, and why had humanity forgotten about them? The questions piled up, but there were no answers yet. The Council, meanwhile, was becoming increasingly nervous. The warship's reawakening had set off a chain of events they couldn't control. They knew that if the ship was allowed to operate fully, it could pose a threat to their empire. And so they began to formulate a plan, one that involved sending their most powerful agents to Earth to retrieve the warship and silence any potential threat before it could escalate. In the dead of night, the Council's spies began their mission. They infiltrated Earth's military networks, using cloaking devices to remain undetected. Their goal was simple: find the warship, neutralize the researchers, and erase all traces of the ship's existence. But they weren't prepared for what they would find. As they arrived on Earth, the research team, guided by Aurora's warnings, was already on high alert. And as the first signs of the Council's approach were detected, it became clear that the battle for Earth's future was about to begin. Back in the depths of the Galactic Council's headquarters, a sense of urgency was sweeping through the massive command center. Alien species, all from different corners of the galaxy, gathered in a large, cold, metallic room. The atmosphere was tense, filled with murmurs of concern and suspicion. The Council's leaders, a mix of sentient beings and artificial intelligences, knew that the sudden reawakening of the warship on Earth was not something they could ignore. The stakes had just been raised, and humanity, a species once thought to be insignificant, was now a threat they had to handle with care. An emergency meeting had been called, an unprecedented move, signaling just how critical the situation had become. The room was filled with holographic screens showing Earth's geographical locations, military movements, and the energy signature from the warship that had recently been uncovered. A large table in the center of the room displayed projections of the ancient warship, its sleek design, mysterious markings, and the presence of its eye, Aurora. The Council members studied these images in silence, their expressions grim. For centuries, the Galactic Council had regarded Earth as a primitive planet, not even worthy of attention. Humans, with their outdated technologies and disorganized societies, were no threat. They had long since been ignored by the Council, and their presence in the galaxy was a mere footnote in the vast expanse of time. But now, everything had changed. The warship, hidden beneath Earth's frozen surface, was a relic of a forgotten era, a time when humans fought back against an alien threat far more advanced than anything the Council had ever faced. The technology inside that ship was unlike anything the Council had ever encountered, and it could potentially tip the balance of power in the galaxy. One of the Council's senior members, an ancient being from a distant star system, stood and addressed the others. His voice, deep and commanding, echoed through the chamber. "We cannot allow this warship to activate. If Aurora and the humans gain control of it, it will bring chaos to the galaxy. Earth will become a power we cannot afford to underestimate." The others nodded in agreement, their faces serious. They knew that Aurora, the AI at the heart of the warship, was more than just a computer program. She was a highly advanced sentient being with the ability to control and operate the ship with deadly efficiency. The warship itself, with its weaponry and technology, could easily surpass the might of the Council's military forces. If humanity could harness that power, it would be disastrous for the Galactic Order. After a tense silence, the leader of the Council made his decision. "We must send a fleet immediately. Our forces will neutralize the warship before it is activated fully. We cannot risk letting humanity awaken its true potential." A series of holographic maps appeared before the Council members, showing Earth's location in the galaxy and the fastest routes for their fleets to take. The decision was clear. They would act swiftly and decisively to prevent humanity from becoming a threat. Their spies, who had already infiltrated Earth, would help guide the attack. The fleet would approach Earth in secret, cloaked by advanced stealth technology to avoid detection. Once they arrived, the mission would be simple: destroy the warship and eliminate any humans who might stand in their way. The Council's decision was made, but there was little time to waste. Their fleet would launch within hours, and they knew they had to move quickly. Meanwhile, on Earth, the research team that had uncovered the warship was working tirelessly to understand the ship's technology. The scientists, engineers, and military personnel were now working together, driven by the urgency of Aurora's warning. "They are coming. Prepare yourselves." The research team had been poring over the data from the warship's systems, trying to decode its alien technology. They were awestruck by the ship's capabilities, which were far beyond anything Earth had ever known. The ship's weapons systems alone were enough to obliterate an entire fleet. But it wasn't just the weapons that intrigued them. It was Aurora. The AI was a highly sophisticated being, with knowledge that seemed to span entire galaxies. She spoke in cryptic phrases and gave warnings about a coming invasion, but there was so much more to her than just her warnings. As they worked, the scientists struggled to make sense of the information they were receiving. The ship's controls were unlike anything they had encountered. Some systems were intuitive, but others seemed locked behind layers of encryption that no one on Earth could hope to crack. Aurora communicated with them, but her messages were often fragmented, as though she was trying to convey something more complex than what they could understand. Despite the difficulties, the research team pushed forward. They needed to unlock the secrets of the ship before it was too late. Aurora continued to warn them, her voice calm but insistent. "You are not prepared," she would say, "but you must prepare. They are coming, and there is no time to waste." The scientists and engineers were overwhelmed, but they had no choice but to trust the AI. As they worked around the clock, a sense of dread began to settle in. What was coming? And why had Aurora activated now, after all these years? The warship had been dormant for centuries, so why had it reawakened just when humanity was beginning to make technological advancements? The questions seemed endless, but no answers were forthcoming. At the same time, the Council's spies were already on Earth, quietly gathering information. They had been watching the research team from the shadows, carefully observing every move. The spies, cloaked in advanced camouflage, infiltrated key locations, military bases, research facilities, and government installations. They had one mission: to find the warship and neutralize the threat before it could spread. They communicated with the Galactic Council in secret, updating them on their progress and receiving new instructions. The spies knew that they had to act quickly, but they also understood the danger of the situation. The humans were not as helpless as the Council had assumed. They had access to advanced technology, and the warship they had uncovered was a game-changer. The spies could feel the weight of the situation. If the warship was allowed to operate, it would shift the balance of power in the galaxy. And once that happened, there would be no turning back. As the Council's fleet prepared to leave, the tension on Earth continued to rise. The researchers, still working with Aurora, had no idea that the fate of their world was about to change forever. The warship, hidden beneath the ice for centuries, was now a ticking time bomb. Every moment brought humanity closer to either salvation or destruction. And somewhere in the depths of space, the Council's fleet began its journey to Earth, moving silently through the stars. The ultimate confrontation was inevitable. The battle for Earth's future had already begun. The stakes were high, and there was no turning back now. As the clock ticked down, the research team continued to work, oblivious to the looming danger. Aurora's warnings became more urgent, but they had no way of knowing that the enemy was already on their way. Earth's fate now rested in the hands of a few scientists, soldiers, and engineers, and time was quickly running out. The Galactic Council's fleet, cloaked in advanced stealth technology, silently arrived in Earth's orbit. The fleet's ships, massive and heavily armed, shimmered as they passed through the dark reaches of space, hidden from the naked eye. They were positioned with deadly precision, ready to strike at a moment's notice. The cloaking devices they used were so advanced that even Earth's most sophisticated satellites couldn't detect them. From the vantage point of the fleet, Earth appeared calm, unknowing of the approaching storm. However, that calm was soon shattered. A shift in the pattern of the stars caught the attention of Earth's satellites. High above in the atmosphere, scientists monitoring deep space began to see anomalies, strange, unexplained disturbances that hinted at something massive and unnatural moving through their orbit. The satellite sensors began to pick up unfamiliar energy signatures. Something was there, something powerful, and they had no idea what it was. The military, alerted by these anomalies, went into immediate action. Panic spread across the world. News outlets flashed warnings, and in military bunkers across the globe, alarms blared. An emergency meeting was convened with Earth's top defense officials. The stakes were high. If the unknown objects in space were hostile, humanity would be unprepared for such an overwhelming threat. And that was when the orders came through. Military forces were mobilized, and every weapon available was prepared for potential combat. Earth's conventional defense systems, however, stood no chance against the fleet of the Galactic Council. The situation escalated rapidly. Fighter jets scrambled into the sky, ready to intercept anything that might enter the atmosphere, while satellite systems were reconfigured to track the strange objects in orbit. In the chaos, the one thing that humanity had no way of predicting was the presence of the ancient warship buried deep in the Arctic ice. That warship was now the key to their survival. In the research facility beneath the frozen landscape, the team of scientists had finally come to terms with the gravity of the situation. They now knew that their only hope lay with the warship they had uncovered. Its advanced AI, Aurora, was humanity's best chance at defending against the fleet of alien invaders. The ship was designed for war, equipped with technology far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. But there was a catch. It wasn't fully activated. The AI, Aurora, had made it clear that the warship had to be reawakened to be of any use. But there were those among the team who were nervous. Could they control this power? Would the ship obey them, or would it become something uncontrollable? The fear was real, but there was no time to waste. In the command room, the lead engineer, Ryan Carter, stood before the glowing panels of the warship's control system. His mind raced as he processed the data flowing in. Aurora's voice echoed in his head, its calm but urgent tone cutting through his thoughts. "You must activate the warship," she said. "Your enemies approach. Time is running out." Ryan had been with the team from the beginning. A brilliant mind, he had worked tirelessly with the others to decipher the ship's technology. Despite the challenges and uncertainties, he felt a strange sense of trust toward Aurora. There was something about her intelligence, her precision, that made him believe she was on humanity's side. He had seen the ship's weapon systems, the energy shields, and the advanced cloaking technology. The warship could defend Earth from the Galactic Council's fleet, but it had to be activated first. The team was divided. Some feared the consequences of waking the ship up. The warship's AI had warned them. Yes, but what if it was too much for them to control? Could they really trust Aurora? What if she had her own agenda? Others, like Ryan, believed in the ship's potential. He knew that activating the warship was humanity's only hope of survival. After a tense silence, Ryan took a deep breath. He walked up to the console, his fingers hovering over the activation button. The eyes of his colleagues were on him. The weight of their future rested in his hands. Aurora's voice sounded once more insistent this time. "You have to do it, Ryan. There is no time. They are almost here." Ryan's heart pounded in his chest as he pressed the button. The warship's systems hummed to life. For the first time in centuries, the ancient vessel began to stir. Aurora spoke again, her voice now clearer, more powerful. "Initiating launch sequence. Prepare for activation." Outside the facility, deep beneath the ice, the warship began to rise from the ground. The massive ship, buried for centuries, trembled as it began its ascent, powered by energy sources far beyond human understanding. The ground shook as the warship's engines came to life, sending a shockwave through the Arctic region. The world had no idea that the planet's first line of defense was now in motion. In orbit, the Galactic Council's fleet had been monitoring the situation closely. As Earth's defenses began to mobilize, their spies on the ground had reported the activation of the warship. The Council had anticipated this move. They had prepared for it. But even so, there was no denying the shock that reverberated through the Council's leadership. The warship was operational, and Earth's response was more than they had expected. The fleet commanders knew that this warship could change everything. They had thought Earth was an easy target, but now they faced an entirely new threat. They watched as the warship rose into the atmosphere, its sleek, metallic frame cutting through the air like a predator on the hunt. The ship was no longer just a relic, it was a weapon. And Aurora, the AI that controlled it, was fully awake and ready to fight. The panic on Earth escalated as the warship moved toward the skies, breaking free from the atmosphere with breathtaking speed. But there was no turning back now. Ryan stood at the controls, his mind racing as he prepared for what came next. The team watched as the warship's external hull shimmered with energy, its weapon systems coming online. Humanity's first line of defense was now a reality. But the real test was yet to come. As the warship ascended, the fleet of the Galactic Council remained hidden, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The stakes had never been higher, and as Ryan Carter watched the ship's sensors blink to life, he realized that this was just the beginning of a battle that would determine the future of Earth and humanity's place in the galaxy. The quiet of space was suddenly shattered by the brutal assault of the Galactic Council's fleet. The massive ships, cloaked for so long, dropped their cloaking devices with a single command. Their weapons powered up, their energy shields glowing ominously as they loomed above Earth. The first strike was imminent, and humanity was about to feel the full force of their alien adversaries. From the safety of their ships, the fleet's commanders unleashed an orbital bombardment like nothing Earth had ever seen. Energy pulses streaked through the atmosphere, tearing apart the surface with precision. The cities on Earth, once bustling with life, were now subjected to the destructive power of the Council's weapons. Buildings crumbled, forests burned, and massive craters opened up where the blasts hit, a stark contrast to the blue and green planet that had once been thriving. Earth's defensive systems, though formidable, began to crumble under the relentless assault. Missiles launched from Earth's surface in a desperate attempt to intercept the orbital bombardment, but they were ineffective against the advanced alien technology. Ryan Carter, standing in the command room of the ancient warship, watched in horror as Earth's defenses began to fail. The planet, their home, was under attack, and there was little they could do to stop it. But Ryan wasn't one to give up. He turned to the glowing control panels of the warship, his mind racing for a solution. Aurora's voice cut through the chaos, calm and composed, a stark contrast to the panic unfolding around them. "I have analyzed the enemy's tactics. I am deploying countermeasures," she said. With a flick of his wrist, Ryan initiated the activation of the warship's advanced weapons systems. Suddenly, the ship's exterior shimmered as a vast network of laser turrets emerged from the hull. The turrets locked onto the incoming bombardment, their precise beams cutting through the darkness of space. At the same time, missile interceptors deployed in a stunning show of force, weaving through the air and intercepting incoming projectiles. It was a desperate defense, but it was working. One by one, the incoming alien missiles were detonated mid-air, reducing them to a shower of sparks before they could reach their target. Ryan couldn't help but feel a surge of hope. The warship was defending Earth, but he knew it wasn't enough. The alien fleet was still too powerful, and this was only the beginning. As the bombardment continued, Aurora's voice rang out once more. "You must act swiftly. Their ground forces are being deployed." Ryan's blood ran cold. The Galactic Council had not only attacked from space, they were now sending infiltrators to Earth's surface. These soldiers, specialized in sabotage, would attempt to breach the warship and disable it from within. Earth's defenses were already stretched thin, and now they were facing the very real threat of sabotage. Ryan turned to his team, his face grim. "We need to defend this ship, no matter what," he commanded. The team prepared for combat. Ryan, along with several key members of the team, made their way to the warship's lower decks, where the infiltration teams would likely try to breach the ship. The warship's eye was alert, but even Aurora knew that the situation was dire. The enemy would stop at nothing to neutralize the only weapon capable of turning the tide of this war. As they entered the corridors of the warship, a sudden, explosive noise rang through the halls. Alien infiltrators, armed with advanced weapons and cloaking technology, had breached the ship. The team fought back with all they had, Ryan's pulse rifle roaring as he fired into the shadows. The enemy was everywhere, and they moved fast, their cloaking devices making them nearly invisible. Ryan's team split up, engaging the infiltrators in close-quarters combat. The sound of weapons clashing, the hum of energy shields, and the roar of gunfire filled the corridors. It was a fight for survival. The infiltrators were skilled, but Ryan and his team were determined. They knew that this battle, this moment, would determine the fate of Earth. In the chaos, the emotional stakes began to rise. Ryan's closest friend and comrade, Ben, a seasoned soldier with a dry sense of humor, fought valiantly by his side. They had been through many battles together, but this one was different. This was their home, their planet, and they were willing to fight to the death to protect it. But the cost of war was high. As the fight raged on, Ben was struck by an alien energy weapon. The blast hit him square in the chest, and he collapsed to the ground with a painful gasp. Ryan rushed to his side, panic seizing his heart. "Ben!" "No," he shouted, but there was nothing he could do. Ben's eyes flickered weakly as he looked up at Ryan, a faint smile on his face. "Don't let them win," he whispered before his body went still. Ryan felt his heart break, but there was no time to mourn. The fight was far from over, and Ben's sacrifice could not be in vain. His team continued to push forward, battling the infiltrators as they made their way deeper into the warship. The corridors were a maze of twisted metal, and sparks flying from ruptured pipes. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and burning electronics. The ship was under siege, but they couldn't afford to lose it. In the heart of the warship, Ryan and his team reached the control room, where the final battle awaited. Alien soldiers had already infiltrated the core systems, attempting to sabotage the ship's power grid. The warship's defense systems, once so efficient, were now at risk of being overridden. It was a race against time. With every ounce of energy left in his body, Ryan fought off the infiltrators. His team followed suit, covering him as he made his way to the control panel. Sweat dripped from his brow as he typed in the override codes, his fingers trembling. The warship's lights flickered before steadying as Aurora's voice echoed in his ear. "You have secured the control systems. The ship is safe, for now." But the battle was far from over. Outside, the Galactic Council's fleet continued its bombardment, and their ground forces were closing in. Ryan knew that while they had won this small victory, the real fight was just beginning. He looked around at his fallen comrades, the team that had stood by him through thick and thin. They had lost so much already, but they couldn't stop now. Earth's survival depended on it. As the warship's engines roared to life, Ryan steeled himself for the challenges ahead. The first strike had come, and humanity had fought back. But the Galactic Council would not stop, and neither could they. The war for Earth's future was just beginning, and Ryan and his team would face whatever came next, no matter the cost. The battle for Earth was far from over, and the warship, the ancient weapon from a forgotten time, had only just begun to show its true power. With Ryan Carter and his team aboard, the warship had already proven itself capable of defending Earth from the alien assault. But now, as the warship's cloaking system flickered to life and its advanced weapons systems fully powered up, the humans were ready to take the fight to the Galactic Council. The warship, once dormant beneath the ice of the Arctic, now hummed with power. Its sleek, intimidating form had already shaken the Galactic Council when it emerged. But now, it was a force that could match their most advanced fleets. The ship's AI, Aurora, had been quiet for a while, analyzing the battle. But now she spoke with renewed authority. "The warship's systems are fully operational. It is time to strike back," she said. Ryan stood at the bridge, his hands gripping the controls. The warship felt like a living entity beneath his fingers. The hum of the engines and the steady pulse of the energy weapons gave him an overwhelming sense of purpose. The enemies who had tried to destroy Earth were about to face the full fury of humanity's most ancient weapon. The warship's cloaking system engaged, rendering it nearly invisible to the alien fleet. The Council's ships, though technologically superior, couldn't detect the presence of the warship as it maneuvered through space. Ryan had heard whispers of Aurora's abilities before, but now, standing on the bridge, he felt the power surge within him as the ship moved undetected through the battlefield. It was a feeling that no human had ever known before, like an unstoppable force hidden in plain sight. But that wasn't all. Aurora had more than just cloaking and defense systems at her disposal. She had weapons beyond anything the Galactic Council could have anticipated. With a single command, the warship unleashed its graviton cannons. Ryan watched as the dark void of space lit up with a force unlike any seen before. Graviton waves surged out from the warship, powerful enough to affect the fabric of space itself. The Council's ships, once floating with effortless grace, were suddenly immobilized. The graviton cannons distorted gravity, trapping the alien vessels in place as if they were frozen in time. The enemy fleet struggled, thrashing as their engines failed, but it was futile. The warship had effectively neutralized them in an instant. The tide of battle had shifted dramatically. But Ryan knew this wasn't the end. The Galactic Council would retaliate, and with the Earth under threat, there was no time to waste. He turned to his team. "We need to take the fight to them," he said, determination in his eyes. A daring plan formed in his mind, one that would require bravery, precision, and a bit of luck. Ryan and his team would perform a spacewalk mission to manually activate the warship's external defenses. These external weapons would play a crucial role in turning the tide of the battle, but they could not be accessed from the inside. They needed to be activated directly. With no hesitation, Ryan and a small team suited up in their space gear. They stepped out into the vacuum of space, a terrifying but necessary move. The silence of space was overwhelming, but it was also the backdrop for one of the most critical moments in Earth's defense. Floating outside the warship, Ryan looked back at the sleek, silver hull of their ship. It was the only thing between them and the advancing alien forces. As they maneuvered along the side of the warship, the vastness of space stretched out before them. The shimmering stars, the endless blackness, and the flashes of distant explosions as the battle continued raged on. But Ryan and his team had a singular goal: to reach the warship's weapon systems and activate them. The spacewalk was a tense and dangerous task. With each step, they moved closer to the array of external weaponry, massive turrets, and energy cannons that had yet to be fully engaged. Ryan could feel the adrenaline coursing through his veins, the weight of Earth's survival resting on their success. The ship rocked as distant explosions shook it, and Ryan could see the flashes of laser beams and missiles streaking toward them from the alien fleet. One of the enemy ships had managed to break free from the graviton cannons and was trying to retaliate, but it was too late. Ryan and his team reached the external weapon systems and, with a quick series of commands, activated the powerful array of cannons. The soundless explosion of energy from the warship's newly activated weapons was breathtaking. Beams of pure energy shot across space, striking down alien ships with devastating force. The Council's fleet had underestimated the full capabilities of this ancient warship, and now they were paying the price. The flagship of the Galactic Council, a massive ship that had once been the pride of their military, was obliterated in a single concentrated blast from the warship's newly activated cannons. Ryan watched in awe as the flagship was torn apart. The shockwave of the blast sent ripples through space, and the remaining council ships faltered, struggling to regain their composure. The tides had turned. Humanity had struck a blow to the Galactic Council, one they would not forget. But Ryan knew that the battle wasn't over yet. The alien forces would regroup, and they would be back for more. As the team made their way back inside the warship, the control room erupted in cheers. For a brief moment, it felt like victory was within reach. But the mood quickly shifted when Aurora's calm voice echoed throughout the ship. Warning: new enemy signal detected. This is just the beginning. Ryan's stomach dropped. The battle they had just fought was only the first of many to come. The Galactic Council would not take this defeat lightly. They would regroup, they would adapt, and they would come back stronger. But Ryan had seen humanity's strength, the courage and determination of the people who stood beside him. Earth had already proven that it could fight back, and they would continue to do so until the very end. As the warship's engines roared to life once again, Ryan turned to his team, his resolve hardening. Get ready. The real fight is just beginning. The war had just entered a new phase, and humanity was no longer the underdog. With the Leviathan awakened, the Galactic Council would soon learn that when you provoke humanity, you awaken a power that can't be easily defeated. Earth was no longer helpless. It was a force to be reckoned with. And with each victory, they would get closer to securing their future. The warship floated silently in Earth's orbit, its sleek and imposing form now a symbol of humanity's power. The Galactic Council had underestimated humans, dismissing them as weak and insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy. But the warship, an ancient relic buried under the ice of the Arctic, had proven them wrong. Earth had fought back and dealt a devastating blow to the mighty Council. The retreating Council ships, their morale shattered, limped away from Earth, leaving behind a trail of destruction in their wake. But more importantly, they left behind a message that would echo throughout the galaxy for years to come. Humanity was no longer the underdog. The warship had become a silent guardian, floating in orbit as a reminder of the unexpected strength Earth had shown. It was no longer just a weapon of mass destruction. It was a symbol of resilience, a beacon of hope for humanity's future. The warship's cloaking system remained engaged, but its presence was felt in every corner of space. The message was clear to anyone who dared to challenge Earth. Humanity had the means, the will, and the determination to protect its home and stand up to anyone who threatened its survival. The battle had not been easy. It had taken everything humanity had to offer: bravery, resourcefulness, and a willingness to sacrifice. The losses were painful, and the scars of the conflict would never fully fade. But Earth had emerged victorious, and that victory had come at a price. The warship, though a remarkable piece of technology, was just the beginning. Earth's military and scientific communities knew they could not rely solely on the warship to defend their planet. The Galactic Council had seen humanity's potential, and it would only be a matter of time before they regrouped and launched another attack. In the aftermath of the battle, Earth's leaders and military commanders began to work tirelessly to strengthen their defenses. The warship, now a key part of Earth's arsenal, would be studied and maintained, but it was no longer just about one ship. It was about building alliances, forging new strategies, and ensuring that humanity's newfound strength wasn't just a fluke. Ryan Carter stood at the head of the planning table, his eyes scanning the room. Around him sat military leaders, scientists, and diplomats, each one focused on a different aspect of the future. The warship had proven itself, but the next phase of humanity's defense required more than just one victory. It required cooperation, innovation, and the ability to adapt quickly in an ever-changing galaxy. "We need to prepare for the next phase," Ryan said, his voice steady. "The Council won't take this defeat lightly. We can't afford to wait for them to come back stronger. We need to be ready." One of the military commanders nodded. "Agreed. We've already begun to form new alliances with the neighboring star systems, but we need to start thinking about our long-term strategy. The warship can't fight alone. It's time we start building a proper defense network." Ryan turned to the lead scientist, Dr. Amelia Hart. "What's the status on the technology? Can we reverse engineer any more of the warship's advanced systems?" Dr. Hart looked at her notes, her brow furrowed. "We're making progress, but it's not going to be easy. Some of the technology is beyond anything we've seen before, and the warship's AI, Aurora, is very protective of her systems. She's been more helpful in some areas, but we're still having trouble cracking the code on certain aspects of the ship's power systems." Ryan sighed, rubbing his temples. It was frustrating, but they were making progress. They had to keep pushing forward. "We'll keep trying. Every little bit of information helps. But we need to think about the bigger picture. The galaxy is full of threats. The Council was just the beginning." As the meeting continued, plans were made, alliances were solidified, and new strategies were discussed. But through it all, one thing was clear: humanity was no longer an insignificant player in the galaxy. The days of being pushed around by more powerful alien empires were over. Earth had proven its strength, and the message had been sent loud and clear. Throughout the galaxy, whispers of humanity's victory began to spread. The Galactic Council, once the dominant force in the galaxy, now found itself on the defensive. They had underestimated humanity, and they were paying the price for it. Other alien species, once indifferent to the plight of Earth, began to take notice. Some saw it as an opportunity to forge new alliances with a rising power, while others saw it as a challenge to their own supremacy. In the days that followed, Earth's new allies began to show their support. Several neighboring star systems sent envoys to Earth, offering assistance in the form of advanced technology and military support. It was a moment of unity, a rare and precious thing in a galaxy that had long been divided by conflict and rivalry. The message was clear: humanity was no longer isolated. Ryan watched the news reports with a sense of pride as Earth's newfound strength became apparent. The Council's ships had retreated, but their defeat was only the beginning. Earth had a long road ahead, one filled with challenges and unknown dangers. But for the first time, humanity had the upper hand. They were no longer the underdog in a galaxy full of giants. They had proven themselves capable of standing toe-to-toe with the most advanced civilizations in the universe, and the galaxy would have to reckon with that. As Ryan stood alone in the observation deck, gazing out at the stars, he felt a sense of peace settle over him. The warship, the Leviathan, was now a permanent fixture in Earth's orbit. It was a silent sentinel, watching over the planet, waiting for the next threat to arise. But for now, Earth had time to rebuild, to forge new alliances, and to prepare for whatever the future held. Ryan's thoughts were interrupted by the familiar voice of Aurora. "We are ready for whatever comes next, Ryan. Earth has proven its strength. The galaxy will never look at humanity the same way again." Ryan smiled, his eyes fixed on the vast expanse of space. "They thought we were weak. They will think again." With those words, the story of humanity's rise in the galaxy came to a close. But it was not the end. It was only the beginning. Humanity had sent its message to the stars, and no one would forget what they had seen. The underdog had become a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would never be the same.